A great storyteller makes a great connector. And in storytelling, there are always going to be listeners. And I found that there are two main types of listeners. The first is those who are envious because they don't have the capability to engage people and the capacity to share a great story. These people are often gossipers and walk away whispering to others with the aim of discrediting the other person. He's full of crap. She always makes it about herself. That person thinks that they're better than everybody else. All it is an insecurity on that person's part. I can't be like them, so I may as well bring them down. They are the critics of the world, those who look like a bulldog sucking on a lemon. And the second type of listener is those who are engaged. They want to connect with the person. There's an inner voice that says, I like this person. My assessment is that individuals tend to gravitate towards others who share similarities with them or embody qualities they aspire to possess. These people couple with each other and then relationships are developed. And depending on which person you are, depends on what type of person you are. Are you the person who brings people down or picks them up? Are you resentful and resigned when listening to a great storyteller? Or are you open, receptive, and curious? Do you feel increasingly isolated and lonely and validate it by telling people, I'm just an introvert? Or are you able to pick up the phone knowing there will be people on the other end who genuinely want to spend time with you? I'm going to quickly run through 8 tips to help you become a better storyteller. It's about practice, reflection, and awareness, not getting them right all the time. So tip number 1 for becoming a better storyteller, know your audience. Now this one goes without saying. Something I learnt in business many years ago was that the market will always give you feedback. The market, in this case, is your audience. Whether it's an audience of 1 or hundreds and thousands, it's important to tune in so they don't tune out. Storytelling has a strategy that when practiced over and over, it becomes fluid and natural. Become aware of your environment and ask yourself simple questions like, what insights do I have about the people here? What open questions can I ask, can I offer so that I can gather some information, contextual cues or details about the people I am surrounded by? How do I plan to tailor and craft my narrative to align with the listener's preferences and needs? Number 2 tip on what makes a great storyteller. What's the point of the story? Are you simply wanting to play the status game where your aim is to simply one-up a previous storyteller? Or do you want to leave people with something deep to think about, something to take away, educate? Or do you want to drive behavioural change? Or do you simply want to make them laugh? By knowing your audience and tuning into the environment you are in, the goal of what you want to share will become clearer. Ask yourself, what do I want them to take away from what I'm about to share? Tip number 3 in becoming a better storyteller, timing. There's a time and a place for everything. A great story told at the wrong time, to the wrong people, in the wrong environment makes for a crap story. You're not going to serve sausages to a bunch of vegetarians. And stories are very similar. I know a guy here in our office building who loves hogging every conversation. He's got a story for everything. And before a person even finishes talking, speaking, he's jumping into a story about what happened to him this one time or another. It has come to the point where we all just roll our eyes and come up with an excuse to sneak away. So ask yourself, is it appropriate for the setting? Will the listeners gain anything from what I am going to say? Or will they be offended? Can I keep this story in my pocket so I can use at a later, more appropriate time? Am I about to tell it simply to gain attention and invalidate others around me? Or am I really offering value and entertainment? As I mentioned in point number 1, the market or the audience will always give you feedback. And it's up to you to practice and become aware of that feedback. Tip number 4 in becoming a better storyteller: hook 'em. I'm a big fan of getting everybody's attention with my opening line. Often it's provocative before I then go in and add context. I remember this one time, my favorite hooks was when I was delivering a speech several years ago to a room full of people. And I began the speech with just standing there. And I said, I stand here knowing I am better, far superior than each and every one of you. I then paused for a long moment, seeing the look on everyone's faces. I then changed my tone and went on to say, I also know that each and every one of you is far better and superior than me at many things. I then went on to speak about the power in each person's individuality and how we should cultivate it and own it. With this opening hook, I immediately had the room because many people were offended. Who the heck is this guy telling us that he's far better and superior than us? They were interested. However, as I went on, they all felt empowered by what I then added. Remember, the environment is the context, the bait is the content, and it's the hook that catches you the meal. Be confident and courageous with your opening. Tip number 5 for becoming a better storyteller: be engaging. Now, this is where vocal variety is important. And I have a whole series of videos on the 5 elements: tone, pitch, volume, pace, and pause. Just like people add filters to their photos to make them look better, to make them stand out, we can also add filters to our voice, to how we speak so that our stories stand out. There is nothing worse than listening to a story being told in a monotonal mumble. People will start thinking about lunch or rearranging their sock drawer. Being engaging also means being clear and concise. There is less rambling and filler words like ums and ahs. When we practice these things, we become efficient with our words, which in turn makes us more effective. Tip number 6 for becoming a better storyteller: make it personal. Sharing a personal experience acts as a coupler. I find that people really tune in and see us more authentically because we are willing to share a part of ourselves. I often tell people that I may come across as aggressively passionate, bombastic, and loud. However, I'm an open book. If someone wants to know something, they simply have to ask. Open the cover. I've also found that when we share something personal about ourselves, be it in a story or whatever, it becomes a catalyst for others to share something personal about them. I can't count how many times someone has come up to me and said, I've never shared this with anyone, but because of what you said, it made me remember a time when such and such. I've lived a very experiential, adventurous life, and because of that, there are so many stories for so many different situations and contexts. Something I learnt to do many years ago was to keep a notes folder on my phone, because I would remember a story in conversation which I'd totally forgotten about. So I would quickly note it down so I could use it in the future. Tip number 7 for becoming a better storyteller: body language. I saw a study several years ago where something like 57% of communication was body language. Now, storytelling is not giving out information. It's not standing behind a lectern with your hands down by your sides. If what you saw was big, make it big. If you hid, you hide. If it happened over there, it happened over there. If I threw it and caught it, I'm showing it, I'm being it. The trick is to not exhaust people by moving around like a circus clown. You want to keep them engaged, to marry your words with your actions, because a loose, free-flowing tongue can be tied by a stiffly stuck body. So learn to integrate the two when telling a story, and you're going to get a lot more engagement. Tip number 8 in becoming a better storyteller: have courage. Have the courage to share, to express, to give value through storytelling. Start with small talk and then build it up from there. There is always going to be an element of doubt when all eyes are on us, it's easy to get a little bit nervous because we are sharing a part of ourselves. However, if you are committed and prepared to take action, you will overcome all doubt as you get better. Storytelling humanizes relationships. We become the director of our own little movie which we're sharing with others, whether it be with friends, business associates, work colleagues, or a bunch of strangers at a random event. And to do this, it takes courage. If you want to join a group of people who practice storytelling, impromptu speaking, and vocal variety through fortnightly missions, below is a link to join our EntreSpeak community. As mentioned, it's all about practice, practice, practice. And in this community, we support people to do so. So they become engaging speakers, because to become more effective and engaging, it's just not what we say, it's how we say it that makes a difference.